Knuckleheads, ASMR Trent here. Hope you guys are well, staying relaxed, keeping the tingles flowing. I am joined today with my clone, ASMR Trent, right over there. And he's going to help us with some background sounds. I will do most of the talking today. And he will be making most of the sounds. Sounds easy enough. And of course we'll put a cool background. Hopefully something that might be moving. Something space-like. Something with good triggers, good visuals to go along with our auditory stimuli. So today I will be reading from The Universe in a Nutshell by the late, great Stephen Hawking. I would imagine a lot of you are into astronomy like me. There is so much to learn, so much to see, so much to explore. And it is fun just trying to keep up with what mankind has learned and solved and actually been able to witness and see. And I am definitely looking forward to the launch and successful deployment of the James Webb Telescope. It should kind of blow the Hubble images away, ushering a whole new era of exploration, exoplanet hunting, different light sensing and chemical sensing capabilities, and really help astronomy grow. However, I think I just heard it's been delayed till like 2020, unfortunately. That is because there is no way to fix it once it's deployed, kind of like they had to fix Hubble 2 or 3 times. So this is a good beginner book. Gives you a general idea. I'll just read part of a chapter here, part of a chapter there. Recommend the full book if you have time. Might be quite good. Relaxing you, putting you to sleep. Letting your mind go. All that fun stuff I try to do for you guys. And I hope that it works. Because I like to keep you relaxed, happy, stress-free. Get a good night's sleep. Keep your energy up. Helping you tackle the next day. Meet all the challenges that you need to meet. Conquering all the goals that you need to conquer. And of course, always expanding your mind and gaining knowledge. Welcome to my new subscribers. I'm starting to grow a little bit. It is about damn time. I've been doing this for 2 years now. I ain't saying I'm the best, but think I've honed in my craft, and I think I'm getting pretty good. I don't have a cool accent like JoJo. A deep voice like Fred. Perfect articulate acting skills like ER. But hey, you just gotta deal with what the good Lord gave you. And do your best, right? Alright, how we doing over there? Clone ASMR Trent. You don't talk much, do you? Just keep those noise going. Keep those tingles flowing. Help the audience out. Alright, so this book kind of starts off with the background of Einstein and his general relativity. Some of the basics here. Alright, and let's just start off here. Einstein postulates the laws of nature should appear the same to all freely moving observers was the foundation of the theory of relativity. So called because it implied that only relative motion was important. Its beauty and simplicity convinced many thinkers, but there remained a lot of opposition. Einstein had overthrown two of the absolutes of the 19th century science: absolute rest, as represented by the ether, and absolute or universal time that all clocks would measure. Many people found this an unsettling concept. Did it imply, they asked, that everything was relative, that there were no absolute moral standards? This unease continued throughout the 1920s and the 1930s when Einstein was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1921. The citation was for important, but by his standards, comparatively minor work also carried out in 1905. It made no mention of relativity, which was considered too controversial. I'll still get 2 or 3 letters a week telling me Einstein was wrong. Nevertheless, the theory of relativity is now completely accepted by the scientific community, and its predictions have been verified in countless applications. A very important consequence of relativity is the relation between mass and energy. Einstein's postulate that the speed of light should appear the same to everyone implied that nothing could be moving faster than light. What happens is that as one uses energy to accelerate anything, whether a particle or a spaceship, its mass increases, making it harder to accelerate it further. To accelerate to the speed of light would be impossible because it would take an infinite amount of energy. Mass and energy are equivalent, as is summed up in Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. This is probably the only equation in physics to have recognition on the street. Among its consequences was the realization that if the nucleus of a uranium atom fissions into 2 nuclei with slightly less total mass, this will release a tremendous amount of energy. In 1939, as the prospect of another world war loomed, a group of scientists who realized these implications persuaded Einstein to overcome his pacifist scruples and add his authority to a letter to President Roosevelt urging the United States to start a program of nuclear research. And I assume you all know the outcome of that. Let's skip over that part, shall we? Excuse me. Einstein was aware of this difficulty in 1907 while he was still at the patent office in Bern. But it was not until he was in Prague in 1911 that he began to think seriously about the problem. It looks like it is the time paradox. He realized that there is a close relationship between acceleration and gravitational field. Someone inside a closed box, such as an elevator, could not tell whether the box was at rest in the Earth's gravitational field or was being accelerated by a rocket in free space. But one cannot accelerate or fall freely very far in an elevator before disaster strikes. If the Earth were flat, one could equally well say that an apple fell on Newton's head because of gravity, or because Newton and the surface of the Earth were accelerating upward. This equivalence between acceleration and gravity didn't seem to work for a round Earth. However, people on the opposite sides of the world would have to be accelerating in opposite directions by staying in a constant distance from one another. But on his return to Zurich in 1912, Einstein had the brainwave of realizing that the equivalence would work if the geometry of the space-time was curved and not flat, as had been assumed before he came. And here we get to see space as kind of a fabric, interweaving space and time, creating this gravity effect. His idea was that mass and energy would warp space-time in some manner yet to be determined. Objects such as apples or planets would try to move in straight lines through space-time, but their paths would appear to be bent by a gravitational field because space-time is curved. With the help of his friends, Einstein studied the theory of curved space and surfaces that had been developed earlier. It took Einstein to realize that it is space-time which is curved. Einstein and Grossman wrote a joint paper in 1913 in which they put forward the idea that what we think of as gravitational forces are just an expression of the fact that space-time is curved. However, because of a mistake by Einstein, they weren't able to find the equations that related to the curvature of space-time to the mass and energy in it. Einstein continued to work on this problem in Berlin. Einstein's general theory of relativity transforms space and time from a passive background in which events take place to active participants in the dynamics of the universe. This led to a great problem that remains at the forefront of physics in the 21st century. The universe is full of matter, and matter warps space-time in such a way that bodies fall together. Einstein found that his equations didn't have a solution that described a static universe, unchanging in time. Rather than give up such an everlasting universe which he had and most other people believed in, he fudged the equation by adding a term called the cosmological constant, which warps space-time into the opposite sense so that bodies move apart. The repulsive effect on the cosmological constant could balance the attractive effect of the matter, thus allowing a static solution for the universe. And of course, this was one of the great missed opportunities of theoretical physics. Move past Einstein in the introduction of the book. And move into Chapter 2, The Shape of Time. What is time? It is an ever-rolling stream that bears all our dreams away, as the old hymn says. Or is it a railroad track? Maybe it has loops and branches so you can keep going forward, and yet return to an earlier station on the line. The 19th century author Charles Lamb wrote, "Nothing puzzles me like time and space, and yet nothing troubles me less than time and space, because I never think of them." Most of us don't worry about time and space most of the time, whatever that may be, but we all do wonder sometimes what time is, how it began, and where it is leading us. Any sound scientific theory, whether of time or of any other concept, should, in my opinion, be based on the most workable philosophy of science, the positivist approach put forward by Karl Popper and others. According to this way of thinking, a scientific theory is a mathematical model that describes and codifies the observations we make. A good theory will describe a large range of phenomena on the basis of a few simple postulates and will make defined predictions that can be tested. If the predictions agree with the observations, the theory survives. That test, though it can never be proved to be correct. On the other hand, if the observations disagree with the predictions, one has to discard or modify the theory. At least that is what's supposed to happen. In practice, people often question the accuracy of the observations and the reliability and moral character of those making the observation. If one takes the positive approach, as I do, one cannot say what time actually is. All one can do is describe what has been found to be a very good mathematical model for time. Isaac Newton gave us the first mathematical model for time and space in his Principia Mathematica, published in 1687. Newton occupied the Lucasian chair at Cambridge that I now hold, though it wasn't electronically operated in his time. In Newton's model, time and space were a background in which events took place but which weren't affected by them. Time was separate from space and was considered to be a single line or railroad track that was infinite in both directions. Time itself was considered eternal, in the sense that it had existed and would exist forever. By contrast, most people thought the physical universe had been created more or less in its present state only a few thousand years ago. This worried philosophers such as the German thinker Immanuel Kant. If the universe had indeed been created, why had there been an infinite wait before the creation? On the other hand, if the universe had existed forever, why hadn't everything that was going to happen already happened, meaning that history was over? In particular, why hadn't the universe reached thermal equilibrium with everything at the same temperature? Well, hopefully that gets you a little bit interested in the universe in a nutshell by Stephen Hawking. And I will include a link to this book. It's one of my favorite books. It's got plenty of good astronomy facts, great graphic pictures to help kind of explain some of these complex problems. A lot of gentle mathematical equations, not too complicated. Fairly easy read. Something to help you